Okay, we're back just to continue from our last video, which was batch rendering, where we rendered out using our render settings to create 100 images that we want to turn into video files. Okay, so of course I'll just bring up a reminder image, which was of course here, where we can see everything that we rendered out, starting with 001 all the way through to 100. So what we want to do is import this into Adobe Premiere, a fantastic program which I've got open here, and we played a lot with this last week, of course. And of course, if you're looking for any further information on how to use Premiere, there are untold resources online and of course through their own help section, but also the notes from last week can be found on our Blackboard area. Anything that doesn't make sense or needs updated, do not hesitate to contact me. It's a lot of stuff going on in this module and it's hard to keep track of all the time. I don't mind people reminding me what needs fixed. Please help out. So let's import some media. So File, and then of course Import, Control I. And this is where we can start to, well, we're going to browse to wherever we saved that last stuff, which for me is in my computer. It's probably in Documents, Maya, Projects, Default, Images. There we go. So here we want to just click Test Scene 01, and we don't want to have to select everything here. What we want to click is Image Sequence. This option here is so important. Just by clicking that, this will now import as an actual video sequence rather than a collection of images, okay? And much like last week, we can start to work on that as an actual sequence. So I'm going to create a new sequence from Clip, and I'm going to check it. There we go. So the video works. One thing we've discovered along the way is that certain file formats do have problems being sequenced into images, probably because they're so detailed. So you probably want to avoid something that's too high quality in the meantime and stick with something like this. Excuse me, not enough coffee today. So again, I've turned 100 pictures into a piece of video, which is great. And essentially all we need to do is batch render out the rest of our stuff. And again, just to go through that process, which is probably really good to see, is obviously to show you that as well. So next, I know I want to batch render scene 100 all the way through to scene 200. So I'm going to change this from 100 to 200 and just move that along. And just, I know that that looks like this. Just to be able to see that, again, I can always go to Perspective Cam 2. Just to see what that looks like. So I want to batch render this scene out. Okay, so we need to check our render settings. That's our first rhythm. Render settings. Scroll down. Start frame 100 to 200 this time. And we want to change our camera from camera 1 to camera 2, which is our corridor scene. And then close that. Now we're ready to batch render again. Happy days. So all we need to do is head over to change that to rendering, click render, and then click batch render and click continue. So again, Maya's going to do some thinking, and then it's going to spit out another 100 images. This time it's going to spit out frame 100 all the way through to 200. So that's another 100 JPEG images, which we're going to import into our Premiere video for editing. So there we go, just have a watch there. Perfect. Result, rendering completed. So there we go, our rendering's been done for us. Now we just need to import. So I know all those files are in that folder. I'm just going to go to File, Import, except I want to start not at scene 001. I definitely want to go to frame 101. So there we go. And we can see that change here. So, and then I'm going to click Image Sequence and click Open. And then that pulls that in. Now we just drag this into our image sequence. Ah, there we we go. Everything's looking good. The gamma's not so good. We can see the image is certainly a lot darker than we would like, but we can fix that sort of thing inside Premiere nice and easy. So there we go. And last but not least, the final render of the day is scene 200 to scene 300 using camera 3. So let's have a look at that. Camera 3 looks like this. I want to change that from 200 to 300. Move it along. And that looks like this. So that final shot is a camera that slowly descends as Bob heads towards the door. Alright, nice and simple. So again, to batch render, we want to change some settings. I'm just opening up my my render settings again. Start frame is now frame 200 or 201. Probably a better idea instead of making overlap layers, but 200 would do, to frame 300. And you can see here that skip the existing ones is already there, so it wouldn't matter. If I put 200 here, it's not going to affect me at all. So now we've got our last section. We just need to change the renderable camera to camera 3, which is the exit. And you can see how handy my naming things are here. So my intro, my corridor, my exit really help keep things nice and easy. And yes, if you're asking, you can disable alpha and depth channel. You do not need those for this task. But it doesn't harm them. If you've got those enabled, it won't affect you at all, don't worry. So I'm going to click close. And then I'm going to go to batch render. That's the one. And last but not least this time, Maya is going to do some thinking, and then it's going to begin to spit those files out, and we'll see that down here at some stage anyway. There we go. We can see we're now at 300 images. If you ever want to check the status of a render, don't be afraid to click the little script editor box. It's a good way of seeing the log. We can see that there's 100 images being generated there. Sometimes it's good to know these things, but it's a little more complex than it needs to be. So I know those images have certainly been loaded into this area. Again, we can see that. And again, we just need to import those files via Premiere. So again, file, import, and of course this time we want to go to scene, there we go, 201. It's an imperfect cut though. We can see there's things there that I want to edit out. So scene 201, image sequence, open, drag and drop that right in there. And what does it look like? There we can see it. So, there we go. And of course we can begin to edit that, add music in as we see fit. If I really wanted, I'm not sure if I'm brave enough, maybe we could be. File, for instance, we could add an effect at the start and end. So I'm just using my dip here. So dip to black, dragged on top, so it fades in. And of course right at the end, just as he exits there, we can of course use that same dip to black to fade out, if it would let me. It doesn't want to. There we go. See, and of course our scene's looking pretty healthy, and of course we can go to File, Export, and Export Media. So our file, even with without any music in it, I might even throw some music in it quickly, so import, and just browse towards my Dropbox, my teaching, my ART104, my classes, week 12, and of course using this MP3 file here, which is Newland. I can drag some music in. Beautiful, but I know I'm not winning any Oscars anytime soon. Anyway, so hopefully that all made sense. And essentially, all you can do is learn by playing and getting things wrong and then relearning it again. It's all good in the end. Anyway, that's all I'm going to do for batch rendering for now. Remember, we can always problem solve later on. If you're having anything, please don't hesitate to contact me. Almost got that one wrong. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.